Since 2013, I've been preparing people for final interviews, which is the last stage that you have to go through before you get a job. All different types of people for all different types of jobs, from apprentices to C level executives, finance, engineering, technology, banking. And these are the tips that I often give whenever I'm going through with people for one to one sessions. When we made a video about this last year for how to pass a final interview, it proved to be really popular and we get loads of comments on our YouTube channels, but this one really stuck out to me. I've got a final interview in 4 hours after 4 rounds of elimination, stressed and haven't been able to sleep. Even my insomnia befuddled state, I found this really useful, thanks. And he ended up donating to the channel, which was really cool because he ended up getting the job. So I thought, we're here to help people get hired. And I wanted to dig a little bit deeper into this because many of the one-to-one consults that I do are based around final interviews. And there's sort of five key ideas that I want to go through with you and just give you some explanation behind them. It's not about best answers. Personal introduction is everything. Be really clear on your why. Commercial awareness catches people out, and be prepared for a conversation. And stick around because at the end, I'm also going to give you 9 great questions to ask after an interview, which again is a subject that a lot of people really struggle with. So, first of all, it's not about best answers. And what do I mean by this? You have to really put yourself into the psychology or the mindset of the interviewer, which is, are you just a mistake waiting to happen? Some people do get through to final interviews almost by mistake, particularly for smaller companies. Somebody is kind of sitting there and looking at you and thinking, is this somebody who's going to fit in with the team? Have they got the right personality, the right work ethic? And a lot of people will get really caught up on core values. But to be honest with you, if you go and look at a couple of big companies' core values, it's all kind of the same, like quality, trust, integrity, service, sustainability. It all kind of looks the same and sounds the same. I've had many one-to-one consults where people are like, "Oh, I've written this answer and I think that kind of meets this core value." Look, to be honest with you, whoever's interviewing you probably doesn't know what the core values are, but it's more about the attitude of the person that is sitting in front of them, because it's reasonably easy to find people who are hardworking, talented, bright, and ambitious in the grand scheme of things if you've got enough applications. But you can teach somebody who you feel is easy to get on with, is able to listen, able to take feedback. And these are kind of what the interviewer is looking for. You're really technically good enough to do the job, but really, do I like you and do I feel that other people are going to like you? Personal introduction is everything. Now, think about the mindset of the interviewer, the person who's sitting across from you. It's a panel, whether it be face to face or if it's online through Zoom or Microsoft Teams. They've probably just interviewed 5 other people, or they're rushing from one meeting to the next, or they're a really busy person anyway, and you're kind of an interruption in their day. I've not met many people who really enjoy interviewing other people, and I can say that not just as somebody who's worked as a career coach, but also as a business owner. Interviews are kind of inconvenient, and you really want to give a great personal introduction which is going to grab their attention. And also, something to think about, and I often talk about this in one to ones with job description, is you're trying to meet their objections. So they're basically sitting across from you thinking, number one, why should I care? Number two, can you actually do what I want you to do? And number three, do I think that you're going to stay? And the way that you meet these objections is really by going there and understanding the job description and front loading in your personal introduction, particularly in the first 30 seconds. So, for example, you're going for a sales role. The first thing you're going to talk about is how much have you sold, who have you sold to, and how easy do you find it to talk to clients. You're meeting the objections or the reasons why they would say no. And this isn't really about having the best answers or having the best personal introduction. It's just about being memorable. And most people will sort of start off the conversation with really banal small chat, or asking them how they are, or saying, I'm really excited to be here. And this is not memorable. It's just, if you think that you're interviewing three, four, five, six people in the same day, you want somebody who's going to sit there and go, Hi, my name's Mike. So I have sold $5 million of technology software over the past 3 years for two of your competitors, and I feel that I can do a good job for you. I've managed a team of three people who reported directly to me, and also I have a black book of 80 B2B clients. I'm not able to take them over with me, but I am really good at generating new business and talking to the right people within that business. This is instantly meeting a lot of the interviewer's objections if I've turned up for a sales or a business development role. And if you want to find a really good way to structure a personal introduction, just search Tell Me About Yourself, Job Ready English. The next thing is to be really clear on your why. So, something that often comes up is people aren't really clear about why they want to do the job. Why do you want to be an auditor? Why do you want to be an investment banker? And the stock response that most people come up with is it's an exciting opportunity. I'm really hardworking. I can learn. This is a great company. I'd work in a great team. And again, this isn't about being the best, it's about being memorable. This is an unmemorable answer. So it could be linking it back to a personal experience. A lot of time for me, particularly in final interviews, I tell people just to be really honest, to be really on the cuff, to kind of say like, look, actually, my dad's worked in finance, or there was a summer where I went and worked in a counseling firm and it really grabbed me. And also, it's going to be easy for you to talk about. The mindset of the interviewer is, how can they de-risk their investment, particularly if you're going for a high paid role or a role that involves a lot of training. Your employer is, or your potential employer is looking at you thinking, this is an investment that could potentially cost me tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds. And the opportunity cost of choosing you over somebody else, why should I choose you? And if you can't, not so much demonstrate about the company, but more about the job and why it is that you really want to do the job. I tend to find this a lot for professional services firms, because it tends to be not so clear why you want to work in accountancy or tax. Another thing to think about is, if you're changing from one career to another, if you've studied one degree and then you want to do something that's completely unrelated to that degree, you really want to be able to prove that you're going to stay and you're not just there because it was the best opportunity that was put in front of you. That might be the best reason for you, but it's certainly not the best reason for the employer. Now, I've seen this happen so many times. Commercial awareness catches people out, particularly with graduates or somebody who's changing from one career to another. And I've seen a lot of people just get asked a simple question like, tell me about a recent piece of business news, or what's going on in their industry, and they just freeze. They can't give an answer because essentially your audience or your interviewer is saying to you, look, do you know anything about us at all? Do you know anything about pharmaceuticals or petrochemicals or the oil and gas industry? Now, I'm not talking about you having a deep knowledge. You can have a shallow knowledge, but you should be keeping up to date with industry news at least once a week. What's going on? What's the big news? What's the big story? What are the regulatory changes? Just a basic understanding. And this is going to clearly differentiate you from your competition, who probably isn't going to have any type of commercial awareness. And also, these are things that your interviewer is thinking about all the time. So if you're able to answer this question, you know, knowing a little bit of knowledge is going to be a good demonstration for the fact that you are briefly, once you've got into the job, then you're going to be immersed in this knowledge, which you should have some shallow awareness around. Now, the fifth and final thing, and this often surprises people, is just be prepared for a conversation. Now, I can't talk for anybody else, but I've seen this happen countless times, and people have recounted what their experiences are. And I can certainly say this for myself. I don't want to sit in a room with somebody for 40 minutes going, tell me about yourself. Why do you want to work for blah blah? What's an example of a time when you worked as part of a team? It's really boring. for an interviewer. So, a good sign that things are going well is that we're just going to start to have a conversation. I'm going to ask where you're from, what you did before, what you used to work as, what are your hobbies, do you have a family? I'm just going to want to talk to you like a regular human being. But so often this catches people off guard and they kind of think, is this a test? What should I say? When the truth is, we're just having a chat and you just need to relax and lean into it. If you're not so good at small talk, I highly recommend that you start to immerse yourself in situations where you're talking with strangers. Something I often go back to, and I've mentioned in other videos, is it's free. It's called meetup.org, where you can go and meet people and start to engage in conversations. And if you're watching this and saying, "Oh, I couldn't do that. I really struggled being shy," well, I mean, get ready to fail your interview. These are things that you're going to have to do if you're working with other people. So I hope those tips are really useful. This is the thing that strikes fear into a lot of people. After the interview's over, the interviewer asks, "Have you got any questions for me?" And people will just end up freezing up, or they're going to ask the bog standard, like, "When will I start? How much do I pay?" And possibly the worst question that you can get asked as an interviewer, because it makes you feel incredibly awkward, is, "How do I do? Could you give me, how did I do? Could you give me some feedback on my interview?" And I'm like, no, because you're sitting right there and I need to go away and process this information. It's never a good look to be put on the spot. Someone inevitably is going to watch this and say, "Well, why shouldn't I ask how much I pay?" Well, hopefully the employer would have told you. If they haven't, then this is fine, but that's probably something that's going to get addressed with HR. And "when will I start" is just implied that you think that you've passed the interview. So, questions that I really like and questions that I encourage you to ask are based around the opinion of the person that you're speaking to. So, most people like to be asked their opinion about stuff or to tell stories about themselves. So, lean into that. Here's 9 of my favorites. How did you end up working here? What are you working on right now? What's the best piece of advice anyone has given you? I love question 3 as an icebreaker for anybody. What's the best advice for someone just starting working here? What's the most interesting project or client you've worked on? What's a common mistake you see new starters make here? Great question to ask. And really, this is probably, say, for example, you're being interviewed by a director or a C-level executive or a partner. You're probably never going to really converse with them for a long period of time. So use this as a great opportunity to learn and pick their brain. What's something I can learn that would really help me on the job? I'd love to hear if there's anything could do better for my next interview. That's a little bit sort of borderline on the feedback, but I think what you're trying to say is there anything that I could have done better rather than how did I do? And have you got any articles or books you read recently that you think would be interesting? Guys, I hope that you've enjoyed this video. If you're liking this style of video, please drop me a comment down below. We make content based upon what you like and what you comment on. And good luck with your final interview.